This morning, I'm going to share from a portion which is not among those which were read, because that was what was given to me formally. But at least we'll find that it has something to do with the portions already read. And therefore we'll be reading or sharing from Psalm 37, verse 7 to 11. And then Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. I'll quickly ask Reverend Samson to read for us Psalms 37, verse 7 to 11, very quickly. And then just one verse, Ephesians 4:26.
Psalm 37, 4 to 11.
Verse 7 to 11.
Verse 7 to 11. It reads, "Be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. Don't worry about evil people who prosper or fret about their wicked schemes. Stop being angry, turn from your rage. Do not lose your temper, it only leads to harm. For the wicked will be destroyed, but those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. Soon the wicked will disappear, though you look for them, they will be gone. The lowly will possess the land and will live in peace and prosperity."
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26.
Ephesians 4, verse 26 reads, "And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry."
Thank you so much, Reverend. And our topic or theme is godly leaders control their emotions. Godly leaders control their emotions. We are having three things to talk about in the theme: God, leaders, and emotions. We all know that God surpasses all situations because he's supreme. We don't contextualize God, or God is not so situational as some people think. God is God. But when I was looking at leaders, I looked at two different types of leaders or leadership. One is general leadership or general leaders. Like all of us here, we are leaders, even when we don't have specified office sometimes, but we are leaders. Then we have specific leaders or leadership, e.g. when you become a father or a mother, that one you are a leader, you can't avoid that one, you have a responsibility. If you are the head of state, that is specific. It is not something that you can say, now I give you, be in for today, tomorrow I come in. No, that is yours. And therefore with that one, it goes with specific responsibilities. But also I was looking at the word emotions. Emotions are situational moods. Emotions come according to the situation around us. They may be good emotions or bad emotions. But according to our theme, where we say that godly leaders control their emotions, it gives us the understanding that these are more likely to be bad emotions, which emotions can always interfere with our leadership. And this psalm contrasts the wicked person with the righteous, a kind of temperament. Emotions are known to be of both good and bad temperaments, and they tend to control human behavior. As I said, from a general perspective or specific perspective, you know how you have been controlled by emotions. I want to give you one simple example. I was on my computer typing and my computer hung. That's what we say. Sometimes some people say it froze. And I tried to move the cursor, it refused, and I hit it. And then something came into my mind, said, suppose it was a person, how would you have acted? I can assure you, if there was a person very close, that could have been a very big box, very big blow. I was hitting the computer, but the computer did not respond. And sometimes when you are overtaken by emotions, you react towards the person, and you want also the person to respond. Sometimes the person responds negatively. You saw? You find that this is something that we experience from time to time. Therefore, these emotions can sometimes disregard good intentions when some ideas seem to be challenging our leadership. The psalmist in this meditation seems to have been troubled by the prosperity and power of wicked people, but he believed that this was a temporary reversal of the true values. When you read the same Psalm verses 1 to 6. So in our theme today, we are going to take our eyes away from the general public or the general leadership and put our focus onto the particular leaders who are entrusted with responsibilities, among which they must deal with their own character first. Somebody was saying, how do you become a leader? When you appointed a leader, you tend to look at the people you are going to lead. And sometimes you are persuaded to identify specific characters, those who are going to give you trouble. Even when you are given an office, sometimes some people come and say, be careful with the other one, be careful with that one, be careful with that one. But sometimes we take our eyes away from us, ourselves. You cannot be a leader of the people before you lead yourself. Sometimes we jump around and dance, and some people celebrate because we have been made leaders. And we forget that we are human beings, and we also have to control our own behaviors. And you know very well, because we have been here for long, you know there are people who have been influenced by their emotions to the extent that those emotions have overshadowed their good performances. Therefore, when you are going to be a leader, you must be able to think about your own character first. Leadership is one of the most challenging roles of human engagements that demands personal character and commitment. Personal character and commitment. You might be having very good character, and people might appreciate, but how are you committed to the roles that have been assigned to you? It is not a personal project, but a divinely designated assignment demanding humility, a down-to-earth character controlled by the Spirit of God. Sometimes leaders, we may take it for granted, because when you see others in responsible positions, you think you also be in the same and do like they do. And we tend to take leadership casually or for granted. But you need to have the Spirit of God, because the Bible is very clear that leadership comes from God. And God, who gives you that leadership responsibility, gives you the Spirit. That's why at the beginning, when we read Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 onwards, when God wanted us to give us responsibility, these are the general responsibilities, but in sight of God they are specific. He gave us his likeness to enable us to be good leaders. So, although most leaders are called or chosen because of their characters and abilities, which they can display excuse me, in favor of their people, they are, however, prone to negative emotions that might lead to ungodliness and a disaster. You may be very happy, as I said, and you celebrate because you are a leader and you're having very many people before you. It can be a nation, it can be an institution like this one, it can be a church. But you need to be aware that you have to display such characteristics of a good leader before the people or in favor of your people. And be aware that you are prone, because you are human, you are prone to these negative emotions that can undermine your leadership. Sometimes their emotions can betray them if they are let loose and go unchecked. As I said, my computer was before me and I know what the computer is capable of doing and not doing. And what I was doing, I wanted it immediately, but it did not respond. Sometimes the people before you or nearer to you, you want that person to respond like you want. And therefore, if that person does not respond, what you do, the easiest you do, is to make the person respond by acting negatively. And that is when your emotions overtake you. Much as negative emotions may dictate the way most people respond to situations, leaders must be aware that they are different from others. For me, when I'm looking at this general leadership, I don't mind what goes on around because I don't have defined responsibilities. But for those who are having specific responsibilities, they must be careful. They must stem their emotions because their responsibilities are defined. They are different from others, for they have the Spirit of God to enable them perform better their leadership responsibilities, because they appear before God and the people, and they must allow God to control the way they respond to different situations. You see, when you become a leader, there is no way how you are going to make people behave the same way. You will find those who are very stubborn. They are those who, for reasons best known to themselves, they are inquisitive to know things. They will always be disturbing. I want to know this, I want to know this. We were in a class and there was this student who would always, at everything, would want to put up a hand and ask a question. And some people say, but that is very clear. He says, it is not clear to me. Yeah, you say it is very clear, but to you, but to me it is not clear. There are some things some people think that is, they say, common sense. They say common sense is not common. So he said, it is clear. So it is not clear to me. And sometimes they got disappointed. So there are people in your leadership who you will find behaving like that. And sometimes in your mind you think, this one I think is stubborn. But for sure, we have not been given the similar capacities of understanding. Those people are there. You allow them to speak. And allow yourself, God, to speak to you so that you can speak to them. In verse 7, when the psalmist says, be still in the presence of God, he's looking at a situation when events may lead to emotional responses that might close our ears and our eyes, denying us from listening to God and even seeing his glory. And you have gone through this life, you know it. There are times when a situation is so tense that you don't want even to hear. When we were young, we used to play some games, especially when you are disappointed with one of your friends and he begins to speak, you put your hands here. Even if you speak, I'm not hearing. Didn't you play that game? That is saying, I don't want to hear, whether it makes sense or not. So emotions, when they overtake you, they close your ears and your eyes. Even anything sensible you will not hear because the emotions have taken control over you. So to be silent is to be humbly silent while God is speaking or is about to speak. Sometimes God speaks, but we don't hear because our emotions have closed our ears. In some situations, when we are overtaken by our emotions, we tend to listen and speak to ourselves, and we do not ask God how to respond or act. Anyone who comes with an advice or a word that can help you, you don't listen. You are speaking inwardly to yourself and hearing yourself. And what you speak and hear is the right response to a situation. People who have got responsibilities as parents, there are times when a child wants to present his or her case to you, say, this is what, because you are already emotional, you don't want to listen to the case of the child. And sometimes you act like I've been watching on TV. There are those who are emotional in the process of acting. They pour hot water on their children. They do other things. You see? And you don't wait to hear what is God saying. From a Christian point of view, when a situation is so challenging, you need to take time, ask God, give me your grace so that I can listen and I can see. So that in that process, it does not take long. It can be just a few seconds, a minute. Even if God takes too long to speak, you wait. Because God will not speak the way you want. As I say, when I have a pressing issue and I am praying, I want God to respond immediately. But that is not the way how God speaks. So if there is a problem, you ask God, how do I respond to this situation? And I can assure you, as you wait, God will speak. God will tell you what to do. Will show you what to do. So in verse 1 and 2, we see evil people may tend to overstep your authority and you want to respond. How do you respond? Evil people, how do you respond? You may move very swiftly to deal with the situation based on the level of your emotions caused by anger. And when you respond harshly to evil people because of who they are in the face of the trouble they are causing to your leadership, and sometimes in the process, you find that even innocent people may suffer the wrath of your emotional anger. Sometimes you need to pray for leaders, those who have got specific roles. You are a class teacher. You find that when you enter a class, it is loud and they are making a lot of noise. Sometimes you are disappointed. You have not even had an opportunity to identify who was the trouble causer, so you bring all the class. You punish them. We have a member of staff here, I don't want to mention him, but I don't know whether he was stubborn, but that the class teacher came and she was a lady. As she was about to enter, she hears people talking too much. And as she enters, the eyes fall on this student. And the student is saying up today that I was silent. But the teacher says, come here, come here. The young man got it rough. So sometimes you find that when there are issues around a group of people, you may not be able to know who is in the wrong and who is in the right, because you have let your emotions overtake you. Sit and find out, how best can I deal with the situation? Some of the people we lead are in direct opposition, scheming to collapse your leadership system, and seem to be having a big following and even financial base. And that one, from a political point of view, you know what is happening here. Big following, financial backing. Yesterday I was coming from somewhere, and as I was entering Mukono, I found people demonstrating on Kayunga Road. Were burning tires, and police was coming from all routes in order to quell the chaos. Those people are there. You have been following the events over the week, over the years in Uganda. You people who are not Ugandans, you just read and listen. Those things are here. And when they come, don't be surprised, we are used. But the issue is, what I wanted to mention here, in that situation, I have been always wondering, because we have, I'm just using this for our benefit, the police, when they are firing tear gas, that because the evil people have come to UCU campus, they fire UCU campus. Even the innocent person is getting a taste of the tear gas. And you have seen women falling, children falling, and whatever. Because they are emotional. And sometimes I see soldiers putting on so many bullets around them. I said, now, if such a person is overtaken by emotions and those bullets are put in the chamber, you would know. So before you do anything, the psalmist is advising, be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to provide resources for you. Ask God the wisdom to handle the situation and wait for him to speak out. Unless God speaks out, we shall act humanly. And you know how humanly we do things. A leader who is not patient to hear God or what God is saying will take abrupt decisions influenced by anger and rage, and will end up destructive. Anger destroys wisdom. Do not rush because the situation before you seems to be running out of hand, but rather be still before God and wait for his word. Are you a leader? Yes. Whether you are a father or a mother or a leader in any capacity, these situations are bound to come. So when they come, you know your capacity to handle. There are those of us who do not have that capacity. We are reactive. Ask God to give you the grace to judge and understand the best way you can respond to situations. And that is why in verse 8, the psalmist continues to say that anger and rage are the source of temper and destruction. Wherever you go and you find that there is destruction, it must have been influenced by temper, and that sometimes that destruction is terrible. And you know, this destruction we are talking about, it might be destruction of property. But before property is destroyed, your character is destroyed first. You cannot destroy things around you before your character has been destroyed. The moment the character has been destroyed, you see people as things. You see valuables as non-valuables. You don't mind. So emotions spark off, rage and anger spark off negative emotions. Godly leaders guard against these two evils that destroy relationship and sensitivity. And these are two important things. Relationship and sensitivity. I can assure you, when your emotions are always at that level, your friends will begin fearing you. They will begin disassociating themselves from you. And also you begin losing sensitivity because you don't know what you should do and what you should not do, what you should say and what you should not say, whom you should approach and whom you should not approach. Moses is a good example of anger and rage on a number of occasions, but in light of this reference, we can cite only two. One, Exodus chapter 32, verse 19, has been read. Moses breaks the stone tablets without first thinking about the value of the stone tablets God had given him. You have followed. He came down the mountain after God had told him, things are terrible down there. Go and see your people. Sometimes you know what disturbed Moses is the Israelites to be referred to as his people. And yet you know God had persuaded him, come and take my people from the Egyptian captivity. But here God is saying, go and see your people. And when Moses comes, he finds these people having made the golden calf. They are doing all sorts of things. Immediately he's overtaken by anger. And I think it is the old age anger which caused him to kill the Egyptian. Yes, don't think that it started there. It started right from there. And he threw the tablets of stones to the people. First of all, without understanding the value of the stones, and also not evaluating the damage these stones would cause to the people to whom they would fall. Which means if you are emotional, whether you have a panga, you have a spear, you have a gun, you use that one without knowing what it is going to do to the people. The second one is Numbers chapter 20, verse 1 to 12. The people suffered from lack of water. They were thirsty. They are crying to Moses. And don't think that what I'm addressing is like our current situations. These people were terrible. They were in the desert. Sometimes they would be suffering from thirst for quite a long time. The animals, the children, the adults are all suffering from thirst. So they are telling Moses, remember we told you, we better leave us in Egypt. You refused, you brought us here. Maybe you had an intention of destroying us here. So as they are complaining, they are picking stones. You know, in a group like this, you will never feel having motion movers, team leaders. So they are there. They will always be there. Even here, we have team leaders. So when they want to talk to the chaplains, they will come. They say, chaplain, we told you this kind of service will not work. They will tell you. So these team leaders are talking to Moses, say, you are joking with us, let us show you, because we told you before. They are picking stones and Moses saying, now what do I do? Then he cries to God, he said, God, the people are almost killing me. And God says, now Moses, you know what you are going to do. I don't know whether Moses was listening to the instructions or it is already because he is angry. Because these people, all the way right from Egypt up to here, they have been doing a lot of things that Moses was already tired of them. And God is giving instructions. Moses, you see, take that stick which you have, go to that rock, speak to the rock, it will give you water. You see how emotions can sometimes destroy our hearing capacity, as I said. I think when God is speaking to Moses, go and speak. For him, he's thinking about a different thing. Moses took the stick, instead of speaking, he hit the rock. You see, emotions can make you misunderstand. Yeah? Moses strikes the rock twice because of anger. He said, you speak. He didn't say speak many words. He said speak. And the rock would give you water. for him with anger, he went and hit the rock. And because of that anger, this last emotional act failed Moses to reach the promised land. That's why Moses did not go to the promised land. God said, I can see now you are a very dangerous person. Let me tell you, leaders who are here, we need to be careful. God has designed a destination for each one of us. But when you are not careful with the people you lead, they can make you fail to get you to a destination. That's why you find some leaders are discontinued. Their services are terminated. And when you look into the issues, it is because of the people they are leading. So we need to be cautious. Whereas emotions are human, they are controllable by God, who chooses us to become leaders. Once a leader fails to listen to the Lord, a lot of damage and destruction are experienced. However, you will realize that leaders who control their emotions act and speak wisely, for sure. If you want, you go and test it. Yeah? Leaders who control their emotions act and speak wisely. I'll give you one just simple example. Joseph. He was very emotional in the presence of his brothers who had betrayed and sold him off as a slave. But he became wisely composed and controlled until he declared himself to his brothers. I sometimes reach, I say, if it were me, this is the opportunity now. I mean, they connived, and some of them were his step-brothers. All of them. They connived, they hated him right from home. Now in the field, they have sold him off, hoping that he's going to die. They never believed at one time that he would be in control. Now he's a leader. I want you to imagine, take your eyes away from Joseph now. Look what yourself, if it were you. This is the person who hated me. This is the person who mistreated me. Now I'm here, the boss. I'm the one who is signing death warrant here. Even where there is no case, I will make a case. Yes, this is human. I look at you. There's somebody who told me that there are people who are emotional. When they see people who wronged them some time back, they begin crying. And you say, what is the problem? I am the one who is the pain. Or sometimes somebody said, I will let you, if you are climbing up, after you have climbed, I will remove the ladders. But Joseph is a good example. He had all the capacity to allow his emotions to control him and pay back for what they had done to him. But he inwardly listened to God. Because Joseph is described or is called a man of spiritual sensitivity. And every leader needs to look for that, spiritual sensitivity. Once that one is missing, you will lead people, but how are you leading them? Unless a leader is godly, it is difficult to act wisely and sensibly. Most of the leaders tend to handle situations according to their feelings without even consulting their seniors or friends around them. They do not pray over difficult situations. A leader, you must always be prayerful. We have read a number of leaders in the Bible who were prayerful, and that made their relationship with God very, very smooth, and God will always intervene when they get situations. How many times do you pray for yourself or for other leaders? I know we have been praying for our president, but that has been a general prayer. There must be a specific prayer. You know what I'm saying? When there is a situation like this in Uganda, and you see our president is in a convoy, he has security, you think things are okay. Things cannot be okay when you have security around you. Things are okay with me who has nobody around. Yes. So you need to pray for our leaders. These leaders do not pray over difficult situations. A stitch in time saves a 9. So is the old saying. I can refer to this saying that the earlier leaders deal with their emotions, the better. For they will save themselves from destroying their own characters and their leadership abilities, and above all, their relationship with God and the people they lead. You need to go and see it. What is the problem with me? Today you may be here seated because you don't have an office and you think that you are not a leader. You are a leader among the general. But there will be a time when you have a specific leadership. And by the time you are there, you need to have worked on your character. Do you know what is happening in you? Don't lead others or expect to lead others when you cannot lead yourself. It is today that you can work on your emotions. Such emotions that are likely to destroy your relationship with God and the people. To be a leader is not to be to be a leader is not to be in complete control, but rather to be in complete submission to God. If you want to be a leader, you don't stand here and you say, do you see these people? I'm the one under control. Wherever you would be. Before you look at the control you have there, you need to have complete submission to God. Listening to him for his will, for his people. And normally we pray saying, let your will be done. Even if the people become stubborn like it was with the Israelites in the wilderness, turn to God and ask, what should I do? Because the doing should be based on God's will. Read Numbers chapter 11. When people were faced with issues of food, the manna issue. Moses turned to God and said, what should I do? And God told him, do this. Do this. Avoid being reactive and harsh that may lead to evil actions. Exodus chapter 15 verse 24-25 is about the bitter water at Marah, where Moses listened to God. Sometimes what raises uncontrolled emotions is what we lack, is when we lack to trust in God and we dwell on our problems, anxiously hoping to solve them by ourselves. Leadership has got many challenges because it deals with many different situational issues that require God's hand. The more you put your focus on your leadership problems or challenges, the more your emotions take control over you, and you end spending more time and energy and other resources on the problems that you cannot solve yourself. Verse 9 talks of the wicked that will be destroyed, but that those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. And usually when we are talking about the land, it has something to do with the goodness in the promised land that God intended to give to these people. There is no leadership that does not deal with or face wicked people. There is no leadership. Even in your house, your own children you have, there are those who are good, there are those who are bad. And you have to deal with them. So there is no leadership. Don't be contented with that and say, I think these are my children, these are my relatives. In some special cases, leaders are put there to deal with such characters. Romans chapter 13 verse 4 tells us that leaders sometimes are put in place to deal with evil people. They are not there only to lead good people. They are there to deal with evil people. So a leader must not expect trouble-free leadership, but instead be prepared to provide resources for his or her people for avoiding destruction. How many of us leaders ever take trouble to pray for wicked people among those we lead, or ask God to change them into good people? How many? Instead, the best we think of is terminating their contracts and, where possible, transfer them. Hey, you are stubborn. I can't keep you here with me. You are evil. So the best thing, your services are terminated. We sometimes constitute a commission of inquiry before we terminate your services. When they find it is true, go. But you remember, from a Christian point of view, where are we sending you? We are sending you in the world of God, where you are going to infect others. The best thing, keep that person here and deal with the person. But that one, of course, institutionally, you can't do that. The more you keep the person, the more you are in danger. I want to give this verse a different perspective. That as leaders, one of our roles is transform people's behaviors for the better and rescue them from destruction so that they can enjoy the goodness of the land. Everyone under your charge is expected to enjoy the goodness of the land, the goodness of your leadership, the goodness of his or her job. So if you find somebody who's at fault, I know there are people who are very difficult, but try to work hard to see, will this person be able to enjoy his or her work? Although the psalmist's view is that the wicked will disappear soon, I'm of the view that a leader acts like a watchman of Ezekiel chapter 33 to warn and help the people from punishment of destruction. The moment we do not help people to see God's righteousness, we shall lose them. And sooner or later, we will have no people to lead. We shall not be credited for losing them because of their wickedness, but rather accountable for losing them. For God is not happy in the loss of a single sinner, but happy for his recovery. How does a leader control his or her emotions? A leader walks and works with God and the people. The leader does not walk ahead or behind the people, or alone without God, for he will not understand what God and the people are doing. That does not give a leader to condone wickedness without giving appropriate punishment. But as verse 11 says, those who are lowly will always be rewarded with happiness and joy for their trust in God. The peace and prosperity mentioned in this verse are a result of good leadership. It must be noted, however, that there are people who seem to be lowly on the outside, but very mean or cruel in the inside. Pretense. You work with the people, they show that they are good, they are smiling, everything, but the inside, anytime can erupt like a volcano, and you will understand what they can do. Humility is the art of service and a prerequisite for every person, and leaders must be at the forefront. So, in this effect, Paul was advising leaders in his letter to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. Well knowing what emotional anger can do if it was left to control us, he said that the more we let it take a foothold in our lives, the more evil becomes the result. You can see Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, about the anger of Cain. Leaders who have been chosen as God's representatives must have the Spirit of God and not allow evil to overtake and overrule them, but be composed and avoid destructive emotions. Godly leaders control their emotions. The Lord be with you.